Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Unemployable podcast. Today we have a very important topic that we're going to be talking about that most of you guys don't even look at, and that is superannuation and self-managed superannuation funds. You're going to have to stick with it. I know it's a topic that most of you guys find probably boring, but in my opinion, it's one of the most important topics that are being overlooked right now. And we've got someone very special that has flown all the way from Sydney to be here with us in studio today. Her name is Natalia Clack. How are you, Natalia?
I'm really well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you very much for coming. Natalia is the director and founder of Easy Super. Easy Super is an SMSF accounting and consultancy firm in New South Wales. They help people establish SMSF establish SMSFs, compliance, tax strategies, audits, and solutions for complex areas like crypto and property in SMSFs as well. She's got over 20 years experience in accounting and SMSFs, and she's recognized in the industry with multiple awards. Now, when we actually got this one booked, it was quite interesting for me because I've never been a big believer myself in superannuation, and I'm one of the skeptics, I guess, in this type of industry. And we also have James here, who I know is. What are your thoughts on superannuation?
I've never actually put money into super I've never had a job, so my balance is pretty much zero. So, but I have obviously offset, put some money in there from time to time for tax strategies at the end of the year. And I've invested into crypto, stuff like that. So I'm a believer for a tax write-up, but a few things have popped up over the recent months, which have made me go, oh, okay, how much do you really want to allocate to that? And I'm sure we'll get to that in a moment with Natalia. Yeah. And that's the new ATO laws with profits over $3 million in super.
And Carson, who's joining us today on the podcast, we were talking about superannuation off camera, and I'm like, so how's your superannuation going? And he just started laughing. He's kind of like, what superannuation? So this is going to be an amazing a podcast, because I think it's going to be kind of us three on this side and Natalia trying to twist our rubber arm and get us into superannuation. Now, I guess a question I have, right, because I think what we'll touch base on a little bit is superannuation, how superannuation works, and then we'll dig deep into SMSFs, what they are, and I guess some of the myths behind it as well.
Just one part there. It's like we're not all just ganging up on Natalia, because I'm sure a lot of the wider listening audience will have either a super locked up with a conventional super fund, and what they can do to unlock that, and they take agency over the investing strategy within their self-managed super fund. So I think just because us three probably don't have a great deal in it, that a lot of people could get a lot of value from this pod.
I think a big thing with superannuation, in my opinion, is people can't really see their future self, right? Like we were talking about this off camera. They see kind of today, tomorrow, maybe the weekend, and that's about as far as most people are looking because of how busy they are in their lives. And obviously it's Natalia's job to actually sit with them and explain to them the importance of this thing, because most people that have superannuation are people that, one, have a job, right? Or they're in the kind of corporate world, and people that have business that have been, I guess, educated by their accountants to say, hey, put an X amount of super because it's a good tax benefit, and you can start an SMSF and go from there. So I guess let's start very, very basic questions around how does superannuation actually work? Because I think other than people getting a superannuation report, seeing it on their pay stub, that's probably as far as people get into it. I know so many people, one, that don't even know where their super is, two, how much is in their super, three, how much they're even making from a return, right, from a yield perspective of their super. So how does it actually work?
And just to bolster exactly what Eric said, is that this is how much people don't know about this superannuation, because there's about $16 billion worth of unclaimed and lost superannuation sitting on government registers. And I know this for a fact because I looked into it the other day. So there's a lot of people that don't have a clue what they're doing.
Look, I will tell even more. There is $4.1 trillion in the superannuation system in Australia. 4.1 trillion. And this money is sitting there and ready to be invested or already invested. Most of this money, of course, they stuck with the large superannuation funds, industry funds, retail superannuation funds, and managed by these funds, which is why a lot of people don't have any idea how much they've got, where their money is, how much they're getting, because people believe that it's not going to make a huge difference in their future. They don't rely on superannuation. They basically don't believe in it. And it could be different. It could be completely different. You can manage your superannuation. You can use it to invest and make a huge difference in your future. But let's begin. So how do you know if you have any superannuation? Guess what? If you're employed in Australia, you will have superannuation because your employer must pay 12% of your salary towards your superannuation fund. And it is compulsory. So if you're employed, officially employed, your employer pays 12%, and you will have your superannuation in some superannuation fund somewhere. You can have a few superannuation funds, which is why a lot of people have different multiple superannuation accounts. And in this case, you can go on ATO website and find all your superannuation balances. It's simple like that. Just Google find lost super, go on ATO website and find all your superannuation.
I guess with a lot of these big super funds, right? What do these funds actually do with the money? Because I think a lot of these funds, again, people see a pay slip and they might see the report and they just have a look at the letter. They put it in a drawer or they put it in a drive and they don't look at it ever again. So how does that whole superannuation, you're saying big industry supers, obviously C-Bus and these types of superannuation companies. Yeah. So how do they work? Where do they actually put the money and how much are they charging for something like this?
So if you think about large superannuation funds, of course, there are managers there, fund managers, and they manage our money, Australians' money. And as a fund manager, think about it. If you're employed by the large superannuation fund and you're a fund manager, would you take an extra risk or would you deliver just average return? Because if you take an extra risk and lose your money, lose people's money, then it means you will lose your job. So when you're on a big money, on a big salary, you're actually not interested to take extra risks. You will be taking very average risks, just follow the market, follow basically the index fund and deliver, on average, they deliver between 5 and 7% return per year, which is, again, if you invested this money in the index fund, you would gain the same result.
With no fees?
With no fees, yeah. There are two sets of fees which you pay in the industry or retail superannuation fund. First is admin fees, which is like $60-70. It's nothing. And the second is it's investment fees. Investment fees are based on your balance. They're not based on how much you receive, how much you get per year. It's based on your balance. So if you have $100,000, you pay in, say, 0.01%. If you have 1 million, you pay a completely different number. And which is why when people have more than 200,000 a year, 200,000 in a self-managed, in a superannuation fund, they basically pay approximately the same amount for superannuation fund versus self-managed superannuation fund. So the fees become the same between the industry fund and the self-managed superannuation fund.
Oh. Sorry, didn't see you there. While you're here, actually, we've got a new coaching cohort that just opened up for the Unemployable Property Coaching Program that you get taught on how to become a property developer. One-on-one coaching, bi-monthly coaching, and also events where we get a full coach bus with all the students and go to 6-7 different development sites. When I say development sites, from 1 lot to 10 lots to 50 lots. You get to see exactly why we buy it, how we fund it, and also how you can do it yourself. The next day, we had an amazing event at the QT Hotel here on the Gold Coast where we had all of our consultants come in and teach everybody on what they're looking for with sites, what are the different trends, and how you can become a property developer yourself. Now you see me on the video, but who you're going to be getting coached by is Shannon and Carson. Who's Shannon and Carson? 4 years ago, Carson was cleaning carpets. Shannon was a machine operator. Today, they're doing over $100 million worth of land deals. I know you're listening, and I know you want to take action. And if that's you, click on the link below or go to www.unemployableproperty.com.au and register your interest, and one of our team will reach out to you, and we'll see you on the next bus. Now get out of here. Now, how does superannuation work for like accessing the money? Like when can people, like talking to a 25-year-old as an example, that's going, okay, you know what, I'm in a corporate role, I'm working for a big law firm, and I know I'm going to be doing this for the next 40 years of my life. So if they're putting towards superannuation every week, can they access it? Can't they access it? When can they access it? Because I hear all kinds of different, again, I don't know a lot about superannuation because I've worked for myself.
Yeah.
And again, I haven't been sold superannuation in a way for me to go, you know what, actually this kind of makes sense. So I'm going to be asking a lot of basic questions around superannuation. So for that person that's 25 years old, how does it work with accessing the cash? And what are the penalties if they can access it early or not?
This is actually a very good question. A lot of people ask me this question. And you cannot access your superannuation until you retire, which is for superannuation purposes, it's 60 years old. You need to reach the age of 60. The only other ways how you can access your superannuation is if you are totally permanently disabled, and we don't want to be totally permanently disabled to access our superannuation, or if you're dying. If two doctors, two specialists can confirm that you're most likely to die in the next 24 months, so you can access your superannuation. But we don't want to look at this type of reasons why we access your superannuation. So technically, until you're 60, forget about your superannuation. All other reasons people access their superannuation, like for the surgery or when it's a severe hardship, it's a very limited amount. And if, guys, you hear anyone is promoting early access to their superannuation, it's all scams. And like you get penalties. Each penalty is almost 20,000, and you can get disqualified from being a trustee for your superannuation fund, etc., etc. So there are severe consequences. So don't think you can access your superannuation until you're 60, but there is an alternative solution. You can invest your superannuation. So you can be in control of your superannuation. And this is where self-managed superannuation funds come to play.
Can I just jump in there? Having done a little bit of research in this space recently, then you've got a hybrid superannuation fund where you can have an allocation into US stocks, Aussie stocks,
Yep.
And so it's a semi-self-managed, but it's not, and they put the controls on it as well. Can you just talk to that a little bit?
Correct. There is a way how you can choose and pick your shares, your stocks.
The allocation.
But it is limited. It is limited again to shares. If you want to invest in other asset classes, for example, if you want to invest in cryptocurrency, if you want to invest in property, if you want to invest in gold, silver, or precious metals, you cannot do it in these hybrid options.
My parents sold their farm about 20 years ago, and there was a big hype around, the government's really pushing super, and so Dad saw that as a safe option for his for his cash and the tax incentives of doing it that way. And this is 20 years ago, and unfortunately put in just before the GFC and had his half price sale. How do you protect the downside risk if you're at the back end of your career and you're looking for somewhere safe to put it? What's the safest way of doing that? Can you do more fixed, lower risk investments in your super, or what would you recommend to someone that's potentially got a $1 million or $2 million big allocation and they want to put it into the super? What's your advice around that?
Look, I can't provide you with investment advice. So I'm authorized representative with a limited license, so I can provide some advice on superannuation, but not an investment advice. To be honest, in terms of the risk, if, for example, someone is risk averse and they don't want to put their money into any risky investments, then you should keep it in your current superannuation fund. You should keep it in Australian Super or CBAS. So you just have to let someone to look after your superannuation, and it will be pretty safe. Yes, you might not get the return of which you want, but at least it will be safe.
And with the self-managed super fund, I know in the property space, I've heard lots of different people say, because the fees are a little bit higher, it only makes sense at a certain amount. And I've heard like 400,000 or 500,000 thrown around. Do you have a threshold that you think, don't set up a self-managed super fund unless you're over a certain amount because of the fees? Or what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, this is correct. So there is a certain amount where your fees you're paying for self-managed superannuation fund become approximately the same fees you'll be paying in the industry or retail superannuation fund. And there was a research done by University of Adelaide on this topic, and they found out that approximately when your balance reaches 250,000, 300,000, obviously depending on the superannuation providers, you are paying exactly the same fees you'll be paying for managing your self-managed superannuation fund.
Yeah, interesting. And when it comes to super, one of the things I've heard a lot from different accountants is having, diversity. What's your thoughts on that, Alex? So some people are saying, I just want to put it all in crypto, or I want to put one property. From a compliance standpoint, do you have to have a certain level of diversity, or can you put it all into one particular asset?
Yeah, so ETO says that trustees should consider diversification. It means in the investment strategy, you have to mention diversification. And if you don't diversify, you have to explain why you are not diversifying. But nothing in legislation preventing you to put in all your money in one bucket, basically.
Can we just, we've sort of switched gears a little bit rapidly in about risk and everything like that. Can we go, so that's superannuation. Your employer is obligated by law at the moment to put in 12% of your weekly wage or fortnightly wage into that fund. It sits there with a large, and if it gets 5 to 7%, less fees. And if you're happy with that and you're not into actively managing your assets, that's you to your 60, and then you can pull it out unless you're dying or a hardship. So if you want to then go, okay, well, I want to change it up, and I think I can do a better job than 5 or 7%, and I want to open a self-managed super fund. What is a self-managed super fund? What's the structure? Is it a company? Is it a trust? Is it a company and a trust? Like, what is the actual mechanism that it sits in, so people can get their head around, okay, this is what the road looks like ahead before I then roll my money out of said industry fund into mine, and then when can I play with it? What allocation can I have?
This is a good question as well. So SMSF is a trust. It is a special trust. It's different from the family trust, and SMSF can have the individual trustees or a corporate trustee. So corporate trustee, obviously, it's a company. The individual trustees, it's the individuals who are the members of SMSF, and they're also the trustees for SMSF, and they're beneficiaries for SMSF. So think about it. When we have a large superannuation fund, say CBAS or Australian Super or any other large superannuation fund, you are a member of this superannuation fund, but you are not a manager and you are not a trustee of this superannuation fund. Someone manages it, and someone is a trustee for this super fund. In SMSF, you are 3 in 1. You are a manager of your SMSF, you are a trustee for your SMSF, and you're also a member of your SMSF. And the SMSF can have up to 6 members. So it means all 6 of you are going to manage your self-managed superannuation fund. Simple like that.
And so just on that, for people, when you say you can have 6, so in other words, husband and wife and the kids can all contribute all their super into one super, like a family.
Yep, correct. As long as they are not employ each other, unless they are relatives. So, for example, employer and employee, I cannot be in one SMSF with my employees. But if it's a relatives, husband and wife, that's fine. So as long as they're not employee child, they can be in one super fund. It could be two families, for example, husband and wife, two couples, or it could be two friends or few friends, as long as they agree on the investment strategy. Because think about it, if you are going into a self-managed superannuation fund with someone else, say with your friend, and you want to invest in, say, property, and in 1 year's time, your circumstances changed, your investment strategies changed. Now you believe in crypto, but your friend doesn't. So what are you going to do? Are you going to sell the property? Are you going to, get out of SMSF? Are you going to set up your own SMSF? So there potentially could be a conflict between the friends, which is why most common scenario, which we've seen, it's a husband and wife, because they usually look in the same direction.
I want to go back and talk, before we go really dive deep into SMSFs, there's a fair few questions around superannuation I still want to get out. How do employees know that their employer are paying their superannuation? Just because it's compulsory doesn't mean that it's happening. And I know that there's been a lot of businesses, going into liquidation and going bankrupt over the last fair few years, that have obviously felt a pinch. And there's a lot of superannuation in the articles. Normally it's the ATO and superannuation that hasn't been paid. How can employers know that their actual superannuation is getting paid? Because I know that there's a lot of super still not getting paid. So what are some employers and what can they do now? Not employers, employees.
Yep.
Where they can, what questions can they ask? Who do they talk to? Is there a website they can go to? Is there a form that they can request from their employer on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis so they can actually understand that their superannuation is paid up to date?
So you can go on the ATO website, and also you can log into MyGov account. If you log into MyGov account, there is a section there, it's called superannuation. So you can go to this section and you can see all your superannuation balances, all your superannuation accounts, and you can see how much your employer is actually paying you.
Okay.
So, but it should be 12%, just remember. So you have to check it as well to make sure that they are paying you 12%.
It just went up to 12% this year.
Yeah, it did.
Just for employees too who aren't up to date, from my knowledge, if you were to have an issue with your business, it's one of the ones like they come after you personally.
Yes.
Depending on the situation, if you're writing up a company or whatnot, just like
Definitely. Your first.
So if you're an employer, and they are coming, if you better correct me here, it used to be 3 or 6 months where you could hold the cash and then top it up quarterly.
Yeah.
And now it's they're looking at every pay cycle. It needs to be deducted.
Yeah, it's coming. At the moment, it's still every quarter. But yeah, employers have to pay superannuation every quarter. And ATO is very strict about this as well, which is good.
That's what I was alluding to. Some employers can start using that money for operating expenses when they probably shouldn't. And it's always best to have a separate bank account set up with for tax, super, and all that sort of stuff.
I also have a question around the age, 60 years old. Has it always been 60 years old? Has it been 50 or 55 or 58? Or has it always been 60?
No, it was different age. It was the preservation age used to be 55. Yeah. And then gradually now for most people it will be 60. But again, accessing your superannuation after the age of 60, there is another condition you have to meet. You have to retire. You have to actually quit your employment between 60 and 65. So, and only when you reach the age of 65, there is no other condition. Just reaching the age of 65 and you can access your superannuation. You reach the age of 65, you can take all your money out the next day.
Obviously, because, the goalpost can be changed at any point in time, right? So this is the, skeptic Eric talking now. It used to be 55, now it's 60. What's stopping them in a year or two going, shoot, you know what, superannuation's getting tight. Let's increase that to 65, and then next increase that to 70, and then the goalposts keep changing. That's one of my kind of worries when it comes to, you know, not being in control of your own money. Because at the end of the day, even in an SMSF, yes, you're in control, but you still can't touch it. And the government at any point in time, right, or the governing body at any point in time can change the goalposts, which I'll talk about, you know, this unrealized capital gains tax and super and all this stuff later in the pod. What are your thoughts on that? Like, is that a question that you get asked from a lot of people like myself that are going, hey, you know, when you're trying to sell them into, put money into super and, you know, for the tax benefit and this and that, do you get asked that a lot?
Yeah, a lot of people like yourself, just who is in their 20s, early 20s, they ask me this question.
Stop.
Why?
That's. I thought we were all talking the truth here today.
They ask me this question. They call me and say, Natalia, but I'm only 27. By the time I retire, by the time I'm 60, the government will come up with something else, like you said, postpone this retirement age or new tax or whatever. And I always say, look, of course we can't predict. We can't predict what the government will do. And unfortunately, we've seen, especially in the last couple of years, changes in superannuation area where we were promised that it's not going to be any change, but nevertheless. However, you have two choices. One choice is just to forget about your superannuation and just let someone to manage it and someone to control it, or at least you can improve your superannuation balance, at least you can control it, at least you can invest, and at least you can choose where you invest your money and potentially improve your future. At least you have a chance to potentially grow your super. When it's in the hands of the government, again, I'm not saying you don't have a chance. Of course you do. You just grow like 5-7% a year, and some people are happy with this result. But if you're more proactive, if you know what you're doing, if you are into finances, and basically if you want more, take more responsibility for your future, why wouldn't you manage your superannuation, even if you are young? Because again, you don't have any other choices. That's the thing.
I agree with that. And I've had this discussion with multiple people before. Is like, it's not compulsory in the US, right?
Yeah.
They're 401k. And that's why there's people on, you know, living on food stamps because most people can't manage their money. That's the reality. I know so many friends that are like, man, honestly, I can't have money in an offset account, or, you know, I'll just spend it because, there's temptations, right? There's social media. There's, oh, I want the new car. I want the flashy item, or I want the new trip. And so I'm a believer that we have to have superannuation, right? Because majority of people, one, aren't going to know how to manage their money, and two, they don't have the headspace for it. Now, another question around how much you can put in superannuation. So I'm going to draw a line in the sand from the employee, right? The employee, you make $100,000 a year, you're getting 12%, you're getting $12,000 a year in your superannuation, done and dusted. Now, can they put more into superannuation if they want to?
Yeah, you can put more. There are different, it's called contribution caps. I know it sounds boring, but again, you need to understand that you can put some money into super. And also potentially by putting money into super, you can potentially save on tax as well. So in how it works, in Australia, we have compulsory superannuation. We also have superannuation caps. One superannuation cap, it's called concessional contribution caps. It's a cap, it's a contribution where you claim a tax deduction. So basically someone somewhere claim a tax deduction for this superannuation. It's either your employer when they pay your superannuation contribution because they claim a tax deduction in their tax return, or it's you. If you put additional money into super, you can offset it against your tax. What it means for you, say for example, your income is $100,000. and you put $10,000 into a superannuation fund. In the superannuation fund, these $10,000 are getting taxed at 15%, so $1,500. And at the same time, you claim a tax deduction against your $100,000 income. So because you are on 35% tax, marginal tax rate, you are getting a difference between 35% and 15%. So basically, you are saving 20% in tax.
Yep.
So, and basically, until you reach the 250,000, when you claim a tax deduction, you're paying only 15% tax on concessional contribution. Unfortunately, when you reach $250,000 in the income, you're paying 30% tax on contribution. But this is something, for obviously people who make all this money.
And that's the thing. Like, this is where I started going, oh, so we make all this money, so pay more. And this is what I mean about the goalposts a little bit.
And then lock it up so you can't do anything with it.
Yeah. So with an employee, right, and now a business owner,
yeah,
right, or someone that's, working through a PTY or an ABN, kind of working for themselves, what's the maximum they can put into superannuation every year?
Maximum is 30,000. 30,000 per year. It's a maximum of concessional contribution. This is where you can claim a tax deduction. But then you can put after-tax money. Some people, for example, inherit a lot of money and they think, okay, why wouldn't I put it into my self-managed superannuation fund or just superannuation fund? They can put up to 120 per year or 360 in 1 year, and they covers 3 consecutive years. So basically think about it, okay, 30,000 and claim a tax deduction, or 120 up to 360 and after tax money, so where you don't claim a tax deduction. So the reason you would put it is, again, if you do have money sitting there out there and you want to invest your money and you are contemplating between investing in your own hands or in SMSF, guess what? There are a lot of reasons why would you invest it in SMSF. One of the main reasons is tax. When, for example, you invest in your own hands, how much tax do you pay? Whatever your marginal tax rate, right? So if it's 45%, you pay 45% tax. When you invest it in a SMSF or in a superannuation fund, you pay maximum 15% tax. So that's a huge difference in tax saving.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Especially for someone that's a very, very high income earner as an employee that has no other tax benefits. They're on $500,000 a year or whatever it is, and they're paying the 45%. That's definitely a big hit. Now, how about if you haven't put into superannuation, right? And all of a sudden you meet with Natalia and she does such a good job selling you into an SMSF. How much money can you actually top up? Like, can you do, for the last 5 years, I haven't invested anything. And if you're telling me I can invest 30 grand a year, does that mean I can go and dump in 150 grand a year now?
Yes, if you have, there is another rule where, again, it sounds very complicated, but in fact, it's all working together once you start understanding how super works. So if you have a balance in all your superannuation funds below 500,000, potentially you can put money in a superannuation fund and use all the unused contribution caps for last 5 years. So whatever unused contribution cap, it's a difference between what the cap was and how much you actually put or your employer put for you in that particular year. So you can go back 5 years backwards and put additional money. Again, how you find out how much you can put in? Go to my Gov account, log into my Gov account, go to superannuation section, go to contribution section, and you can find out what's your unused concessional contribution cap is.
Cool. With the self-managed superannuation fund, what are some of the, do you guys have any more about superannuation? Because I wanted to start digging into SMSFs.
No.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest myths, I guess, around SMSFs and why more people don't go down this route? Because in my eyes, right, you look at superannuation, you're kind of like, okay, I can't touch it, so I've got don't really have any control. Whereas in SMSFs, I can play with my own money. I still can't touch it until I'm 60, but at least you still have some control. So why aren't more people setting up SMSFs? Is it in the benefit for the government for everyone to go, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go set up an SMSF. And then all of a sudden these superannuation funds, you know, the C-buses of the world and the rest of it, like every SMSF that gets set up obviously impacts their balance sheet quite heavily. So where's the balance in regards to that?
I guess government wants people to be self-funded and provide for their own retirement. But at the same time, and this is just a statistics from the ATO, some people would set up SMSF and they would preach the law and spend the money. This is a lot of people who shouldn't be setting up SMSF. So government tries to find a balance between just allowing whoever wants to set up SMSF, or at the same time provide some education and guidance around, okay, so setting up SMSF means responsibility. So it's not, and it's not your money until you retire. Some people think if you can access this account, it's yours. No, it's not yours. So in terms of myths and misconceptions about self-managed superannuation funds, it used to be for wealthy people and for people with a lot of super and for the business owners, especially when I started 25 years ago. You wouldn't come across a lot of people who, like a lot of professionals who would set up SMSF and a lot of people with low balances. It's changed. It changed so much. So currently, I think a lot of people understand, that there is a superannuation know that there is a superannuation somewhere where, and they want to start controlling their superannuation. So there is a real interest in this topic. And I have people in their 20s setting up a self-managed superannuation fund. The other myth is that it's expensive. Again, I think it used to be expensive, again, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It's not that expensive, so far at the moment. So it's, say, for example, to set up a SMSF, you're paying between $3,000 and $5,000 on average, right? And I'm talking about setting up a SMSF with the statement of advice. There are a lot of providers out there who set up a SMSF without statement of advice, and it's even cheaper. But say outgoings about $2,500-$3,000 a year. So if you think about the average balance in SMSF between the couple is $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, paying $2,000-$3,000 a year for the opportunity to invest and make much more, it's not a bad deal.
Yeah, I agree. And I've just had very, very good friends of ours that have been listening to the pod and, over time and talking to other people and getting more interested in kind of financial freedom and freedom for their family and legacy and whatnot, just switch over to SMSF and just talking to them, right? And they're high income earners, and just talking to them, you can feel like there's this level of freedom that like in their voice of just this excitement that they're in charge now, even though it's still not their money, right?
Yes.
Like you said before, let's be very clear, it is not their money, it's superannuation, but at least they now have the decision making in regards to whether they want to buy property or whether they want to put into crypto or whatever shares that they actually want to buy, right? Now, but it's not for everybody. And you mentioned this a few times. So what are some questions that people can ask themselves that are listening to this podcast going, is an SMSF for me or is it not for me, right? Where do you draw the line in the sand? Like I know, like I said before, a lot of people that don't know how to manage their money and they're hopeless,
Yes.
right? That's one question. Can you manage your money or not? Are you the type of person that the money burns a hole in your pocket and you got to go and spend it, right? Or are you like someone like Carson who likes to pile it away, right? What are some of the questions that you would ask yourself?
SMSF is definitely not for everyone. I think first, if you have a low balance, really low balance, when we talk about $30,000, $50,000 in your superannuation, it might be not a good idea just yet. Maybe you should hold on to it, grow it a little bit more, and set it up when you have at least 150,000 in the superannuation fund combined. I'm talking about combined superannuation balance. So again, if we have two people, then you have combined 150, it's good enough. So the second type of people who probably should think before they jump into self-managed superannuation fund option is people who don't understand the finances, and they know that they're not interested in learning as well. So because you might not understand, but you might be really curious and interested in learning more about finances, and leave the podcast like yours, guys, for example, and you get yourself educated. That's fine. But if some type of people who is not interested in managing the finance, and even like a little bit scared of managing their own finance, it's probably not a good idea for you. Maybe it's better for some fund managers to manage your super. That's that's a second type of people. And of course, if you're thinking that you set up a SMSF and you are going to spend this money, or you are going to be smart enough and somehow borrow from your SMSF and then pay it back, and then looking for some scheme, it's not for you as well, because the government, the ATO will come after you, and I've seen people getting penalized for doing the wrong things. So if you're thinking of doing the wrong things, don't even try to use superannuation for this purpose.
I think I've seen commercial properties works pretty well in self-managed super funds. I know some friends of mine that are getting reasonable rates on the debt, and then they'll put in $500,000 and they get that 2% gap between what they're lending on and what the 7-8% net yield on their commercial property, actually getting that arbitrage as well. So, and then obviously the growth and the rent. So I think that's where self-managed super funds work really well. And then in the property development space, like we've got projects at the moment where people are lending their self-managed super funds cash into our own deals and getting a really healthy return, a lot higher than, and obviously there's a lot of risk. I've seen people lose $500,000 in developments as well. Do you have any advice around like the commercial, property side of things, and also like doing loans?
Yeah, correct. So there are a lot of people who invest their superannuation in property, residential or commercial. And I guess this is the opportunity to leverage your money, because SMSFs are not allowed to borrow. The only one type of borrowing is when you use a special borrowing. It's called limited recourse borrowing arrangement. Again, it sounds very complicated, but it's basically the special borrowing. Just think about it, it's special borrowing, but it is opportunity to leverage someone's money, which is why a lot of people invest in properties in the SMSF. So, and with commercial property, you're absolutely correct. This is the good opportunity for people as well to make extra. And it works really well for business owners as well, because business owners, they can buy the commercial property and they can rent it back to their business. So basically the super fund owns the commercial property, business running from this commercial property, they pay the rent at market rate. And this commercial property stays as a part of the basically business as well. And in the future, when you retire, you can either transfer this property out, you can sell this property. There are many options what you can do with this property. In terms of the property development and the loans, it is a slightly different arrangement. It's when someone has money in a self-managed superannuation fund and they are looking for better return. They're thinking about, say, for example, term deposit, but what's term deposit rate at the moment? 4.2%. And there are developers who also are looking for money, and they find each other, the superannuation funds and the developers, and developers borrow from self-managed superannuation fund and pay between 8 and 15% at the moment, depending, of course, on mortgage, and if it's first mortgage, second mortgage, or mezzanine finance, you get the different interest rate. Of course, it's riskier than putting money in a term deposit, but again, you get in the premium return.
Just to clarify there, let's say I've got $500,000 in my self-managed super fund, and I'm also the developer. I cannot loan money to my own development, can I? It's got to be at arm's length. It can't be directors in common.
Yeah, the most transactions in SMSF, they have to be at arm's length. Even with residential property, for example, you buy residential property, you cannot live in it, your relatives cannot live in it. Only with commercial property, you can rent it out to your business. And the same with investment. You can invest in companies, listed or unlisted. For example, but you can't invest in your own company. So what it means, you can invest in my company, but you cannot invest in your own company using your superannuation. So with development, development could be done in a self-managed superannuation fund as long as it's done by self-managed superannuation fund. So superannuation fund has to buy the land, superannuation fund has to have the money to develop, and you cannot borrow for development as well, which is not good. So basically, if you have cash in your SMSF, and so you can go for it.
And to just one step back, that's the development part, but just from a typical residential transaction, a self-managed super fund can buy completed property, i.e. off the plan or existing stock, and it can borrow 80/20 LVR, but you can't buy a block of land and then get a loan to build a house on it, correct? So you can't do a house on land contract. You can only do single contract.
Yeah, it has to be single contract, and there are some providers who can deliver this single contract, but basically they pay for it. This is the bottom line. Some developers, they finance it and then they sell it to the self-managed superannuation funds as a single contract, and this is how you can buy. But unfortunately, SMSF itself cannot enter into two contracts and borrow. Yeah.
Sure. Yep. Just try to clarify that.
Yes. So yeah,
it's a big one.
What are some of the other things that people can invest in a self-managed superannuation fund? Like, how does it work with cryptocurrency as an example, or different types of shares, or, hey, I've got a mate who's got a startup and he needs 200 grand to fund that. Can you do these different types of things? And how does it work from an auditing perspective? So if I do that, do I just literally take the $200 out, transfer it into their bank account? Do I have to tell anybody? What does that look like? So first question is, what else can you invest in? And then the second question is, when you do that, how does the transaction actually work?
Yeah, you can do a lot of things in a self-managed superannuation funds. You can invest in shares in Australia or overseas. If you want a Tesla shares, Facebook shares, go for it. You can also invest in private companies. And this is where startups come to play, where, for example, some startup, and I do have clients with who know startups and they invested in startups. Of course, it's a huge risk. You have to take responsibility as a trustee for SMSF. You have to take responsibility for this risk, but you can invest in startups as well or unlisted companies. You can also invest in gold, silver, precious metals, which is a lot of people like because if it's tangible. So you can touch it, smell it, I don't know, whatever you want to do with it. And you can keep it in a vault with the provider, or you can even keep it in a safe place. Of course, cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency became very, very popular in the last 5 or 7 years, and we will talk more, I'm pretty sure, about cryptocurrency. What else you can invest into? So basically, almost anything you can do, you are thinking of investing outside of super, you can invest inside of super, as long as it's at arm's length.
Yeah. Now, how does that actually work? So, for instance, my super's been, use an example. My super's been tied up, right, in an industry super fund. I haven't been able to touch it. We'll go through the process with you on how you can set this up. So say if I've got one set up now, is it literally a bank account that is just sitting there that I have access to just like any other bank account? So if today I feel like, hey, I'm going to buy 100 grand's worth of Tesla shares, and I literally just, boom, transfer it into my other account, in my trading account, and that's done. Is it just as easy as that?
Almost, yeah. It's almost as easy as that. So basically, you have to set up account.
Yeah.
Obviously, to get into shares, you have to set up account.
Right.
Everything has to be under SMSF name. As long as everything is under SMSF name, you'll have a bank account, normal bank account under SMSF name. You can log in online. You'll see your SMSF bank account. Only you, only the trustees will have access to the SMSF's bank account. Then you can set up a share trading account exactly the same way how you would set up it for your own shares, to buy and sell your own shares under your name. And then you just transfer the money from the SMSF bank account into the share trading account, which is under SMSF name, and buy shares, and they will be under SMSF name. And when you want to sell them, you do the same way. As long as money go back to the SMSF's bank account, that's all fine. So you can buy and sell at any time.
How does capital gains tax work within the SMSF? So if you bought $100,000 worth of Tesla shares, and you go and sell it for 150, and you made a capital gain of $50,000, how does that work? Is that 15% again on the capital gain, or is it looked at differently?
Yeah, the capital gain tax, if you sell it in the first 12 months, you pay 15%. Like I said before, maximum tax you pay in a self-managed superannuation fund is 15%. Unless you breach a law, and then you pay 47%. But if you're not breaching the law, so you're paying 15% tax, and after 12 months, the capital gain becomes 10%. So if you hold the asset for more than 12 months, you pay only 10% capital gain tax. It's a 33.333% discount.
That's actually
yeah.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. But when you get to 60, which we spoke about, when you get to the retirement, you're actually paying zero tax, and which is why you should get more interest in the super funds.
Yeah. So when I turn 60, so say whoever turns 60, and they've got $2 million worth of asset that they've built in there, literally the lock opens up, and you can just take that $2 million and do whatever you want with it in one hit.
If you quit your job.
If you quit your job, yeah, you have to quit at least one employment. If you have two jobs, you have to only quit one, and then you can go back to work 2 weeks later. But it has to be genuine. It has to be genuine retirement.
That's not a genuine.
Oh man!
Well, I'm in trouble. I feel like ATO will come after me after this podcast.
It's only interviewed by 30,000 people. The secret's safe with us.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Is there a certain amount you have to take out once you're in that retirement phase each month or year?
Yes, you do. You have to take the minimum, because government obviously wants you to start depleting your superannuation. It's a 4%, starts from 4% between 60 and 65, and then it goes to 5%, and then it goes up to 9%. So, it's a minimum you have to take. You can take it at any time during a year. It doesn't have to be regular withdrawals. You can take it in one go.
What happens? Sorry, Carson, you were going to say.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with the self-managed super funds, a lot of the spruikers have jumped on top of this with the SDA housing, which has been pretty ordinary, to be fair, with some of these spruikers just putting them out the back of nowhere where they're not required, and some of these other schemes as well. What is there any advice about, you know, some of those schemes and what to be aware of for people that are considering, you know, some of these, you know, properties within the SMSF?
Yeah, there's been a lot of property development schemes, like I said, and spruikers. I'm getting calls almost like every week from someone saying, oh, can you offer my development to your clients and I'll pay you such and such amount, which we don't do these days. But the thing is, you have to watch out if someone is pushing you towards any property development or any particular type of property, and they sound very pushy. They sound, especially new developments, especially some special sort of like NDIS. And I'm not saying that NDIS providers are all spruikers. Not, of course not. There are like people who, you know, genuinely providing the value for the investment into the investors, but there are a lot of spruikers and overpriced properties. So whenever you see someone is selling a large amount of properties and on a like bigger scale, and whoever is pushy, and also whoever is, I guess when you see that someone is not educating you but just trying to sell you, this is where you should think about it, because first should come education and understanding of what it is, where I'm getting myself into, rather than just jumping into something and then they organize someone. So, for example, these developers, they organize someone to set up SMSF for people who don't have any idea about what SMSF is, and they've been pushed to invest in something again which is overpriced. This is where you have to be really careful. First, you have to research, you have to learn, you have to educate yourself before jumping into anything. So yeah.
What happens if you die? So, you know, if you have superannuation,
Yeah.
right? That's the reality, right? Like, what happens if
Your
you
wife will get the
pass
money,
away, right? Or me and my wife as an example, like how does it actually work? Because I know a lot of people have no wills.
Yes.
So how does the government look at that? How hard would it be to actually get that person's, your mom's, your dad's superannuation when it's been held, obviously, with the government as an example, or a self-managed superannuation fund? What's that? What does that process look like without getting? I mean, let's dig as deep as possible, I guess. But I think this is very, very important because,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people, like I said, out there without any wills. And then all of a sudden, fair enough, you don't have a will and you have a bank account with money in it. But when you don't have a will and there's a bank account that is not your money until you're 60, how does that all work?
Actually, will doesn't cover superannuation.
Interesting.
Yes, it doesn't cover superannuation. In a superannuation, there is a special arrangement. You can arrange that your money, your superannuation will go to your estate, but it's not covered automatically. I guess with self-managed superannuation fund, you are in a better position because usually there is a corporate trustee, say, or the individual trustees, and usually you would have someone else, say, if it's a husband and wife, you'll have two people managing a self-managed superannuation fund. If one person passes away, then the second can step in and continue managing self-managed superannuation fund and organize the death benefit payment, of course, with the specialists, and organize the death benefit payment and make all the arrangements. However, if you die without will, without any arrangement, then again, there is a trustee. There is a trustee in SMSF and there is a trustee in the larger superannuation funds. It's just APRA regulated funds. They have people managing them, so they will know that this person passes away, and they will look for the estate to send this money to the estate without, if there is no beneficiaries. But you can nominate your beneficiary in superannuation fund, so you can nominate where you want your money to go to.
Now, what's the actual process to set up an SMSF fund? Obviously, we've talked a lot about it and what it can do and things you can invest in. So to work with someone like you, Natalia, how does it actually work? And what's the process? So if somebody's sitting there on the fence right now going, this is something I've been thinking about, right? But I've been hearing all these myths that it's too expensive. I don't have enough money. What's the process of actually setting one up? What do people have to do?
SMSF is a financial product. So to provide advice on a self-managed superannuation fund, a person has to have a license. So your everyday accountant, if they don't have a financial license, they cannot provide advice on a self-managed superannuation fund. They can do, it's called execution-only SMSF establishment. This is where you go to them, you say, dear accountant, I want you to set up SMSF. They just physically, they give you the trust, they give you the paperwork, and that's it. They can't talk about SMSF, they can't do anything. How we do it in a different way. We do provide a statement of advice. So we sit down with you, we find out all your financial situation, we find out what you want to achieve with your super. We look at the things like insurances which you might have in your superannuation fund. We look at the fees you're paying. We look at the return you want to achieve. We educate you on how to invest your money, not where, because I believe in freedom of decision making. So I believe people should invest in whichever asset class they believe in. And I will just tell them how, I will show them how, I will make sure they're compliant. And then we set up a trust and we set up a bank account and we assist with a rollover. So the full process, it does require there is a lot of paperwork and it does require some time, but it's not that complicated when you get someone who can guide you and hold your hand. So at the end of the day, you go through pain, I'm talking about paperwork pain, for a few weeks, but then you're all set and you're set for life, basically. Think about this.
So from making a decision to actually having that money in your SMSF account, if people are doing the work within the time frame that you would be giving them, would you say within 3 to 4 weeks they would be fully set up?
Yeah, between 3 and 6 weeks, you'll have money in your SMSF bank account.
And we'll go through how they can contact you and whatnot, but what's the cost for something like that? So if someone's sitting on the fence that goes, again, I've heard that it costs all this money to get this set up. What does it actually cost for someone like you, give or take, right? You don't have to say exactly to sit down and go, if I had a superannuation account, and does it change whether it's superannuation account of 250 grand, 500 grand, $1 million, 10 million? Does it change, or is it just kind of a one-off type of fee that you guys charge to get this set up? And then is there a management of that moving forward?
Yep, it's a one-off fee. Doesn't matter how much you have, and doesn't matter how many people are going to be in SMSF. It could be 1 or 6. The fee is exactly the same. Mm-hmm. So we charge $5,500 for setting up SMSF with a statement of advice, with a bank account, and also with a rollover assistance. And we have a special for your podcast only, for your podcast listeners, which is $4,400. Yeah. So we'll set up SMSF, and it does include a statement of advice. And if you think about the value of, like someone is holding your hand, you know exactly what you are doing, you're not making any mistakes, and you know how to manage your SMSF and how to invest. So it will set you up again for life. So it's not a lot of money to pay for this type of future.
For anyone that's actually interested in getting in contact with Natalia and Easy Super, go to www.unemployable.com.au/Easy Super. Register your details there, and Natalia or one of her team will get in contact with you. And how does that work? Is there just an initial free consultation? Is it a 15-minute, half an hour consultation just to make sure that there's a prerequisite of people and an amount? Or how does that work?
Yeah, we do have a 10-minute consultation we offer, just to make sure that it's a right fit and SMSF is potentially the right option for someone. And after 10 minutes, we send all the information, and we book a session with myself, like 1.5 hour session once you sign the engagement letter.
That's exciting.
I just want to touch back on that diversification piece. I've spoken to an accountant and he was losing his mind when we were, going through different ideas of putting, all of it into one asset class. Can you just touch on what you said before again? Is it more advice that it's pretty diversified, or can you actually put it all in crypto or all in one property?
Yes, you can put everything in one asset class as long as you explain why you are not diversifying. So regulation requires you to consider diversification, but it doesn't mean that you have to diversify. As long as you're taking responsibility for the risk and explaining it in the investment strategy, basically talking back about your accountant, they just have to know how to assist you with investment strategy. And as long as investment strategy is done right, the auditor will pass the audit.
That was going to be a point I was going to ask as well, is like the ongoing, once you've got the self-managed super fund set up, $4,400, you've got a bank account, you've got your badge and your gun, you're off to go and place your money. And in that statement of advice, if you then put it all into crypto or into property, what happens on the ongoing? Like your accountant does a return, but there's the auditor piece in here. Can you just unpack what that auditor does and what the cost?
Yeah, every year SMSF has to be audited by the independent auditor, and it is compulsory. So every year you'll get financials prepared, tax return, and the audit done. The auditor looks at transactions, they look at the assets, they look at the existence of the assets. They just have to confirm that you have not done anything wrong during the year, and all the assets still exist. So you have not run with the money, basically.
I mean, SMSFs scare a lot of people, right? Because of the compliance risk, right? Which people think in their minds is a risk. Is it really that complex, or do you feel like that's a bit more of a scare tactic? Because I've heard it over the years, again, over and over and over again, that it's difficult, this word, difficulty. Is it a scare tactic, you think?
No, it is difficult if, there is a thing. So there are a lot of accountants out there who doing like individual tax returns, company tax returns, trusts, and SMSF. When you do different type of entities in accounting, you can't know it all. Which is why when it comes to SMSFs, it's usually something where accountants can't spend a lot of time on, and then it becomes complicated because there are a lot of rules and there are a lot of regulations, and you have to follow regulations, and they change all the time. They change the rules all the time. When it comes to being SMSF specialist, like I do SMSFs only. I do SMSFs, and like every day I work for at least like 10, 12 hours a day. I go to all the, events, webinars, I attend webinars, seminars, conferences. I do a lot of CPD hours. And as a result, I don't find it's complex, and I find that I can explain my clients and educate my clients. So I think the educational piece is very often missing with the general accountants, because they don't have time to educate themselves, to dive deep into SMSF space, and they don't have time to educate their clients about SMSFs. And I think this is where it comes, there are a lot of mistakes people make, or there is a lot of frustration. I think it's because there is not enough education. This is what I really believe.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's what I liked about you when I did some initial investigations, when the team wanted to bring you on the pod, was that this is your wheelhouse, right? So you're not just a general accountant doing a bit of SMSF and a bit of, tax consultancy. This is all you do. And in my opinion, guys, when you're looking for an expert, right, you don't want a jack of all trades, master of none. You want someone like Natalia, right, or someone that you resonate with that just does that one thing. Because it's just like you said, things are changing so rapidly all the time, right? Regulation, compliance. And that's why I think that there is a stigma around SMSFs and that they are difficult and that they're scary. And if you do the wrong thing, you're going to get penalized. And at the same time, I kind of understand that because most people don't understand that that's not their own money. As soon as there's an SMSF created and they think everyone thinks they can outperform the next person, you know? And if you're not one that understands finances and you're not one that knows how to manage money and it burns a hole in your pocket and the rest of it, like Natalia said, you're probably better off, earlier in the pod, you said, to stay in an industry super fund, let it sit there. Just what I would be doing though is just get educated around it at least. If you know that's who you are, right? And you know who you are, know who you're not. Right? And if that's who you are, I'd still take some responsibility and review your documents, ring up your superannuation fund, ask them the questions, right? Diversify a little bit, right? Depending on the level of risk that you're at. In my opinion, that's what you need to be doing, right? Like if you can't control it yourself, at least ask some of the questions. Now, what are some of the questions that you would ask someone that has an industry super fund? What are the things that they should be looking for? Or some of the questions maybe that they should be asking if they're going, you know what, Natalia, I'm on that other side of the fence. You scared the shit out of me with your SMSFs. I'm just going to stay in my industry super fund, right? But I still want to know more. And I want to make sure I'm getting the best return possible. What are some of the few things that you would do if you were in their shoes?
First of all, I would find how to log into your superannuation funds account, online account, because a lot of people don't have any idea how to even log in. Second, I would check what fees I'm paying. I would check if I have insurance or I don't have insurance. I would check how much insurance costing me per year. I would check how much fees I'm paying. And I would check how much I'm actually getting in return. Is it at 2%? Is it at 5%? Is it at maybe 12%? Because maybe 12% is enough for me. Maybe I'm happy with 12% return. And make sure that your superannuation is growing. So it's, going somewhere rather than staying nowhere. If you're happy with your current superannuation fund, stay with it. If you're not happy, what you can do your own research, and you can go online, you can Google, compare the superannuation funds and do your own research. What are the other superannuation funds out there and what are they delivering, what returns they are delivering. So you can compare returns within the different superannuation funds. Maybe you should switch the superannuation fund. Then maybe you should move your money from one super fund to another. So just start, with the simple steps of starting taking responsibility for your own money, because it's not your money at the moment, but it is your money in the future. So taking responsibility for your own future. And then, whenever you're ready to explore something else like self-managed superannuation fund, you can always approach a specialist. And again, start with the education. Don't jump into anything if you don't understand it.
Yeah. I want to ask about the unrealized capital gains tax. This is kind of the elephant in the room at the moment, right? That obviously the government's dropped a bombshell. Can you tell us a little bit more around that? Is that in play at the moment? Is it coming? And how does that work with the $3 million? Can you just unpack that a little bit? Because obviously we've talked about it a little bit. There's a few articles. Is it actually happening? Is it live? And how does it work?
It is happening, unfortunately. It is not a law just yet. However, it is with the parliament, and most likely it will pass, this legislation will pass, so it will become a law. We don't have all the finer details yet because, again, they might change. However, in a nutshell, this is a new tax which Labour government introduced, and we knew actually, the specialist, SMSF specialist in the country, because I'm a member of SMSF Association, and then we've been talking about it for a long time. It just was very quiet. Our voice was very quiet before Labour said, yes, actually it's happening. But nevertheless, so how it's going to work, if you have a balance in superannuation fund, and this balance is more than $3 million, it's per person, so it's not per super fund, it's per person. If your balance is more than $3 million at 30th of June, then they look at the 30th of June, say 2025, and 30th of June 2026, and whatever is difference between 2026 and 2025, between 3 million, say it goes to 4 million, whatever is the difference, you're going to pay 15% tax on unrealized capital gain. So if your super goes from 3 to 4 million, like I said, you pay 15% tax on 1 million. And it's a personal tax. So you'll have an option to pay it from SMSF, or you'll have an option to pay it personally. But I guess the thing which, I don't believe is fair about this tax is that you're paying tax on something you have not actually sold. So for all my crypto enthusiasts, like I call people who invest their superannuation in cryptocurrency, it might mean that if crypto is the most volatile asset, or usually most volatile asset, if you invest in crypto and it goes up, and then you pay capital gain tax, unrealized capital gain tax, and it goes down, the next year you don't get a refund.
No credit.
So no credit. So you paid your tax. Thank you very much. See you later. So I guess it's easy money for the government, and because instead of increasing productivity in this country, let's not talk politics.
That's another part.
Yeah, it's another podcast. Yes, but they just find it's easy. Like I said, it's $4.1 trillion, and everyone wants a piece of this pie. It's a lot of money. And it's easy because they all under one legislation, under one structure. Say SMSF or superannuation fund, doesn't matter. It's still the same legislation, and they can just tax across the board.
Just for clarity, just to make it really simple, you've got $3 million in your account. You've done well. You've made another $1 million between the two, 29 whatever.
In the year, yes.
In the year. You pay $150,000 in tax. You've got to either liquidate some of the assets to pay the tax, or you can pay it personally, contribute it. Next year, if I don't make any further money, that balance still sits at $4 million. I'm going to slug to 15% annually, or I'd pay it once.
You pay it once, yes.
Just want to clear that for them.
Yeah. So you pay it once. Yeah, you pay it once, but it will be just movement between the two financial years.
Yeah, and next year at 4 to 5, you paid 50% on the million gain.
Yes.
There was a pretty source fall.
Yeah, but then you sell it, and if you sell at a loss,
no credit.
Yeah.
At least with the crypto and shares, it's more liquid. You can sell that down. But if you've done the right thing, and like the example you gave before, you run your business, you bought the commercial property, and then all of a sudden that's over $3 million 20 years later. All of a sudden you've got to liquidate that asset if you don't have that 15% lying around, and that's where it gets really clunky, for people that have done the right thing, initially, and then the rules change, and that's where, bites people in the ass.
And not only that, let's say we've got, it's so ambiguous, let's say we've got Carsten over here, he's got an asset, commercial property, whether they're going to send an actual a mortgage purposes value out every year to value it, like how's that mechanism going to work? It's just rife with just rubbery numbers where you could either get screwed or you could screw them. Like, how's it going to work?
You mean a market valuation?
Yeah, I mean, how's that going to work? Like,
yeah, because
has he improved it? Has he not improved it? They don't know that he's put new tiles down, put new window furnishings in it. Like every year, who's paying for the valuation?
It's actually compulsory, so it's very strict. There are very strict valuation rules, and for SMSF, it is compulsory to obtain the valuation every year. So you'll be surprised that ATO knows exactly what the market valuation. But again, in terms of market valuation, it's very often, especially with commercial properties, it is opinion of the valuer. So again, it's objective, but it is a little bit subjective as well, especially if there are no similar properties on the market. So they're just going to express their opinion. Yeah.
That's going to be a nightmare to deal
So
with.
find the right valuation.
Commercial valuation, 4.5, 5 grand. Got 10 properties, shop to 50.
Yeah.
Get to know your valuer.
Yes.
Right, invite them for barbecue and use brown paper bags.
Yeah. 50 plus all of a sudden there's an increase.
Yeah.
Like it's just
I have not heard that.
Fucking
it's a big.
I'm a SMSF auditor as well. I have not heard that. I'm not auditing your SMSF.
You definitely are not. I've broken about every single rule you mentioned today.
Okay.
I want to finish off the interview talking a little bit about crypto
Yes.
in SMSF. What are you seeing in regards to your new clients coming in and existing clients? How much of them are actually adopting crypto in their superannuation funds?
Crypto is extremely hot topic. And it became a hot topic in the last 12 months. We've been doing crypto since 2017 for our clients. I actually was one of the pioneers in this country as a SMSF specialist offering these services. Again, I'm not pushing my clients towards anything. I don't provide investment advice, but there is a genuine interest, and we understand why, because of the return, and a lot of people started believing in cryptocurrency, especially in the last 12 to 24 months. It's funny because even my conservative clients who used to invest like property or shares, blue chips, they started calling me now and saying, Natalia, I want to put money into crypto. What should I do? How should I do it? They know where they want to, like what crypto they want to buy. They just need the guidance. They just need the rules. And again, it's very hard to find information in this country because cryptocurrency is not a financial product. So what it means your financial advisor cannot open a mouth and talk about cryptocurrency. It means, obviously, like if financial advisor cannot talk about cryptocurrency, who do you go to? You go to maybe a crypto coach or maybe a crypto educator. And then you have strict rules, especially in the self-managed superannuation funds. And a lot of accountants, they don't want to touch crypto. For some reason, there is a resistance, I would say, amongst the accountants to advise clients on crypto, to assist clients with the crypto, especially in the SMSF. And this is where you have a situation where there is a lot of interest, but people can't find help. And people go and do it themselves with online providers. And when you go to the online provider, just be mindful because they can't provide you with the advice. It's do-it-yourself type of service. So whatever you do, whatever mistakes you do, whatever like you do in your self-managed superannuation funds, you are on your own. And this is the difference between when you have someone like a SMSF specialist or accountant who at least you can talk to them, you can call them, and online providers. But basically, with crypto, it's a lot of interest. And 5 or 7 years ago, I used to have clients doing all the crazy things with crypto. Like I had clients with hundreds of NFTs. I had clients with the bot trading with 2 million transactions in SMSF. I had clients with 20 different wallets and exchanges and hundreds of different meme coins. I had it all. I've seen it all. It came down now. So most people who call me and ask me for advice and guidance, they want to invest in either top 5 or just one, which is a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
People just realized that you don't have to invest and try to find this 100x coin. You can, be totally happy with investing in a top, say, 5 coins, and you can be totally happy with this type of return because it's still really, really, really good.
Yeah.
So, And again, the type of risk you take, you can't compare you taking a risk when you buy Bitcoin or when you buy some meme coin. That's completely different game. Yeah.
Natalia, I just want to say thank you. That was a very informative session. Obviously, superannuation and SMSF is a heavy topic to talk about. But like I said before, guys, it is a very important topic. Like James said, just because us on here don't have a lot of superannuation because we're our entrepreneurial spirit and we think we can do better than, putting into superannuation as an example. I know there's a lot of you guys that are sitting out there that won't even know how much super you have, where it is. And one thing that if you didn't get out of this session is get organized, right? Take accountability, take responsibility, find out where it is, make the phone calls, go online, like Natalia has said, find out where you're at and take responsibility for that money because that money is not yours, but it can be yours if you get to 60. And if you don't get to 60, it's going to be somebody in your families. So have a think about someone other than yourself at the same time and take that responsibility. And again, we don't take it lightly. You guys, coming here, flying in and staying the night and all these different things to come on these podcasts. So we really, really appreciate you being here, Natalia, and educating the Australian population on a very important topic.
Thank you guys so much. I really like your podcast. I think you're doing such a great job educating all people out there, and you make it simple and you make it easy to digest for people as well. Thank you so much for opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much. James, Carson, as usual,
Thank you
guys.
Natalia.
And for those of you guys that want to get in contact with Talia, again, www.unemployable.com.au/easy super. And her or one of her team will get in contact with you. As usual, guys, please like, subscribe, share, comment. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. And hopefully we'll see you guys on the next one. And please, again, share it around. Thanks, guys.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.